Hello, I'm Henry Keane. We are UATV English. We are online to give you the Ukrainian perspective of reality of war. Watch in the episode. Ukraine withdraws from the Ottawa Convention and receives drone support from Germany and France. Explosions in Crimea, new Russian casualties. Ukrainian defense forces work hard in Liman district to turn Russian equipment into scrap. Please comment and subscribe to our channel while watching it. By doing so, you help us to fight off Russian criminal aggression. And welcome to the news pulse. Ukraine's withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention is a clear signal to all partners along the Russian Federation's borders. This was said by President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in his evening address the day before. Zelenskyy emphasized that anti-personnel mines often have simply no alternative for defense.
Russia has never been a party to this convention and uses anti-personnel mines very cynically, and not only now, in the war against Ukraine. This is the signature style of Russian murderers, to destroy life by all means at their disposal. Chemical weapons, ballistic missiles, including medium-ranged, as well as different types of mines, including anti-personnel ones. Unfortunately, yes, of course we see how our neighbors in Europe react to such a threat. We also know about the difficulties of the withdrawal procedure when it is carried out at times of war. Still, we are taking such a political step, thus sending a signal to all our partners on what to focus on. This applies to all countries that are located on the perimeter of Russian borders. Anti-personnel mines are a defense tool that very often simply has no alternative.
Ukraine is stepping out of the 1997 Ottawa Convention, indeed, which bans the use, storage or production of anti-personnel mines. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed a decree following a move by the National Security and Defense Council. According to what the president's website states, such a step is needed to protect Ukraine's territory and sovereignty during ongoing Russian aggression. Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also confirms the final withdrawal.
We are convinced that this step is both necessary and proportionate to the level of threats as it concerns the survival and preservation of Ukraine as a sovereign, independent and free state. In the context of Russia's ongoing genocide aimed at destroying Ukraine as a state and Ukrainians as a nation, Ukraine is compelled to give unconditionally priority to the security of its citizens and the defense of the state. This applies in particular to our state's participation in international legal instruments and mechanisms. From the statement of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
The head of the German Foreign Ministry, Johann Wadephul, has arrived to Ukraine. This is high-profile official's first visit to Kyiv since taking office. The visit includes talks with representatives of the Ukrainian government. The freedom and future of Ukraine is the most important task of Germany's foreign and security policy, Wadephul said upon his arrival in Kyiv. He also expressed confidence in Ukraine's true intentions to end the war and recalled the importance of sanctions against Russia.
Russia is counting on us to weaken our support. Putin does not want peace. He wants conquest and subjugation, and he wants it at any cost, even at the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives. But we will continue to stand firmly by Ukraine so that it can continue to successfully defend itself with modern air defense and other weapons, humanitarian and economic aid. This is the promise with which I am going to Kyiv today. Johann Wadephul, German Foreign Minister.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and French President Emmanuel Macron discussed a topic of utter importance: joint drone production in Ukraine. This was reported by French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot. He noted that Paris had managed to mobilize revenue from Russian assets frozen at the start of the invasion and divert those funds to support Ukraine. Barrot said that it is important to develop Ukraine's defense industry. That is exactly what Paris will be doing in cooperation with Kyiv, he adds. The presidents of Ukraine and France discussed joint drone production at the NATO summit in The Hague. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said in his interview with LCI TV channel, he reiterated that support and military assistance that Ukraine needs in general, in particular, means domestic weapons production, and that is exactly what France is intended to go for, Barrot says. He also recalls the recent announcement of a drone production in cooperation with the famous French automotive producer Renault.
Because today we must recognize that this is a drone war and soldiers are facing each other with drones. That's why this is a very important aspect, which the president discussed with Volodymyr Zelenskyy during the NATO summit earlier this week. Jean-Noël Barrot, French Minister for Foreign Affairs on LCI TV channel.
In the Donetsk Oblast, near the town of Siversk, the armed forces of Ukraine captured Russian mercenaries of African origin, namely from Cameroon. One of the prisoners of war confessed that he was a teacher in Cameroon and then traveled to Russia for medical reasons to have his teeth treated. Another Cameroonian said he was going to work in a factory in Russia, but that his documents and belongings were simply confiscated when he arrived. Worth to remind here that in April, Ukrainian military also captured in the Donetsk region 2 Chinese citizens who were fighting in the ranks of the occupying Russian army. More news from Russia. Loud explosions were heard in the Kursk region of Russia in the early hours of Monday morning, according to local channels. According to these reports, the blasts were particularly loud in the area of Lgov 2 railway station. The total losses of the Russian army in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion already exceed 1.2 million in dead and wounded. Of these, just about 1,000 occupiers were eliminated by the defense forces of Ukraine in the last 24 hours alone, according to the General Staff. Also were destroyed during the last day 4 tanks, 7 armored vehicles, 29 artillery systems, 2 multiple rocket launchers, 1 air defense system and 3 helicopters. In addition, the Russians lost 172 drones and 85 transport vehicles. Overnight, Russian occupiers, as usual, attacked the Kharkiv region, killing 2 civilians and wounded 8 others, including a child, said the head of the regional military administration, Oleg Sinyhubov. According to him, the Russian army attacked 6 locations in the region. A drone also hit a vehicle repair shop, causing a fire. There were fires, civilian buildings were destroyed and several residential areas. Nothing new to Kharkiv, really, a place where Russian terror reigns almost every night. Unfortunately, a 70-year-old woman was killed as a result of a Russian attack on Zaporizhzhia region. In total, the past 24 hours, the Russian army launched 375 strikes on 10 communities in the region. This was reported in a Telegram network by the head of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration, Ivan Fedorov. According to him, private housing areas and cars were also damaged. On Monday night, Russian troops attacked the Dnipro region with drones, 4 of which were destroyed by Ukrainian defense forces. Still, as a result of the attack, Communities Agriculture Enterprise suffered a machinery damage. A fire broke out. Several other communities in the Nikopol district and in the city also suffered damage. Russian troops used FPV drones and artillery to do it. Luckily, there were no fatalities or even injuries this time, the regional military administration confirms. In turn, overnight, a temporarily occupied territory of Crimea was attacked by drones, Ukrainian drones. Traffic on the Kerch Bridge was completely blocked. The Crimean Wind Telegram channel reports on that. According to it, Russian air defense systems were operating in the Kerch area around midnight. The occupiers also put military helicopters even in the air. There is no information about the damage yet. Russians are restoring a Soviet military base in Balaklava, Crimea. This is reported by the guerrilla movement Atesh. The guerrilla intel detected activity near abandoned military facility in the temporarily occupied Crimea. We are talking about the former underground, or better said, under the mountain submarine base. There in the Soviet era, Soviet army loaded torpedoes and missiles at their submarines. Now the facility may be undergoing a preparation for further reuse, Atesh warns. In Russia, an important electronics manufacturer, Optron Stavropol, is on the verge of bankruptcy. This is reported by the Russian media, not us. Since March of this year, the enterprise has announced downtime since the state defense order has turned out finally in losses for the enterprise. Also, contract deliveries have been severely disrupted. There are enormous amounts due as a result. The company cannot continue operations. Power semiconductors produced by Optron Stavropol are used in aviation and installed in aircraft power supply systems. They are used on MiG and other fighter jets in Russia. But the main reason for the crisis is very simple. It is the forced underpricing of the products for the Russian military. For example, the cost of one diode is 3,600 rubles, and the military presses down the quote to 2,600 rubles. As a result, losses for only 2023 mounted in 102 million rubles for the facility, and for 2024 it rose even to 149 million rubles. Good to know. Ukraine will have a new air defense unit. Its groups will be equipped with interceptor drones. This was announced by the Speaker of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Yuri Ignat. He stressed that recently the Russians are more intensively using Shahid and decoy drones, which are obviously aimed at depleting the Ukrainian air defense forces. Ignat also notes that Ukraine needs special drones to intercept those Shahids, which fly faster than many other types of drones. The new unit will be working with exactly that type of super-fast drones. The operators are already being trained. Soldiers of the Ukrainian Armed Forces 60th Brigade are firmly holding defense lines in one of the hottest areas of the Frontline in the Donetsk Oblast, the Liman district. The unit's aerial reconnaissance is working 24/7, detecting attempts by the Russian occupying forces, obviously to advance, targeting the artillery fire and assault drones. Our correspondents visit the positions of the aerial reconnaissance unit working with the Ukrainian FURIA unmanned aerial reconnaissance systems to deliver a report for you.
This is how Ukrainian defenders in the Liman direction turn Russian military equipment into scrap metal. Aerial scouts from the 60th Separate Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine spotted enemy vehicles on the move and relayed coordinates to artillery and FPV drone operators. Recon drone pilots are tasked with adjusting fire and confirming target destruction. A typical combat shift for the FURIA drone team starts with a full systems and navigation check. From opening the case to launching the bird, no more than 20 minutes.
Got it, reading clear, 5 out of 5. Roger that, over.
During night ops, the team uses thermal vision. They say it's tough to spot a hidden enemy in summer foliage, but once it's dark, the targets in the heat trail become as clear as day.
What? Зараз дивлюся вдалечінь.
Watching the distance now, waiting for artillery to fire, scanning. Then we'll fly in and check for infantry and vehicle movements.
The FURIA crew works in 4-man teams, rotating in pairs. One pilot-operator duo on mission, the other resting.
У нас дуже тісна взаємодія з сусідніми підрозділами.
We've got tight coordination with neighbouring units. Solid guys, both attached, and our own FPV drone ops from the 60th. Tons of confirmed hits.
Thermal tracking picked up Russian assault troops on motorcycles. Strike drones locked on and took them out.
Друже, а от...
Buddy, those glowing spots, any idea what that is? Vehicles? 3 motorcycles and what looks like a UAZ truck in cover. Eyes on target, moving into position. Copy, we're tracking. Suppression is live. Hit. Oh, that's good.
Ой-ой-ой, хорошо.
As a result, enemy personnel at the location took significant losses.
В основном они передвигаются маленькими группами.
They usually move in small groups, motorcycles, bikes, on foot, even lawnmowers sometimes, whatever they can find. Then they gather in some hut or bunker and try to launch an assault.
The key to successful operations, say the Ukrainian defenders, is setting up launch sites smartly. Staying hidden is critical.
Цей бліндаж теж робили самостійно.
We built this dugout ourselves by hand, like for family. Perfect height, fits everyone, picked a good spot, camouflaged. Nobody's finding us here. Safe, hidden, and we made it comfortable.
This drone recon crew from the 60th Brigade has been operating in the Liman sector for over a year and a half, all volunteered to defend Ukraine. On the front line, they became more than brothers in arms, real friends, always ready to back each other up.
Мы все украинцы.
We're all Ukrainians. Doesn't matter if you're from Zaporizhzhia, Uzhhorod, or Dnipro. What matters is the kind of person you are, not where you're from.
Reported by Oleksiy Baranovsky from Donetsk region, UATV News.
Well, that was it for today. My name is Umni Keen and we are News Pulse at UATV English. We thank you so very much for your presence and for your time and attention. We appreciate that a lot as it helps to make Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Please join the fight for freedom and sovereignty by subscribing to our channel. Hope to see you soon with us. Goodbye.